So just a couple months ago, Square Enix actually filed a lawsuit on a Chinese company called HK Tentree over alleged stolen assets from one of their games, but it's a lot more complicated than that. But through all of it, it looks like it all now is settled. So, what actually happened here? So, the whole thing was that this Chinese company, HK Tentree, they recently came out with a game called Mecharashi, and this is actually available right now just outside of the US, but it is apparently soon going to be available within the US, or at least that was the plan. You can see some pictures of the game here, and yeah, it translates to Metal Storm. Everyone's just got like, the big body suits of armor. Kind of reminds me of, I don't know, Titanfall. That's how my dumb brain works though, because you see, it's actually way more similar to a different game series, I should say, a long-running series by Square Enix that is called Front Mission. I'm gonna play 3 other screenshots here that are from various Front Mission games. You can definitely see the similarities here. Yeah, very quickly Square Enix took issue with this, and like I said, 2 months ago they issued this lawsuit. They were claiming that this new Mecharashi game had stolen assets from Front Mission, but what's even more interesting and complicated to it, and what maybe makes Square Enix's argument a lot more believable that these could be stolen assets, is that HK Tentree was actually contracted by Square Enix to make the next Front Mission game. Now, this was going to be called Front Mission 2089 Borderscape, but in 2022 it was canceled. So Square Enix is claiming that maybe they are using some of these assets that were going to be for the Front Mission IP, and they're just slapping it on this new Mecharashi IP. To me, in my opinion, it is very clear that this Mecharashi game had, a very strong influence from the Front Mission games. I'm sure there were already things that were made for this new Front Mission game that they didn't want to just go to waste when it was canceled. So I'm sure that's a pretty good reason why they did this on their new game. They made it very similar to Front Mission, but apparently it was so similar that Square Enix sued them for this. One thing I do want to stop and say is that I am seeing some rumors that I guess allegedly Square Enix was making it very difficult for HK Tentree to actually get these assets that they needed for the Front Mission game back when they had actually contracted them to make it, and I guess overall they were a very difficult publisher. Now, I cannot confirm that, but people are bringing that up, and they're saying that, maybe this is kind of some moral justification as far as why they, could have done this. Why HK Tentree maybe had, some sort of a justification here to use the assets that they already had, because it also sounds like the game was canceled in 2022 simply because HK Tentree wanted out of the contract. That's just what I'm reading. I can't necessarily confirm that, but yeah, it's always good to, hear the other side of the story there. So that happened 2 months ago, and now just a few days ago, 4 days ago, on May 23rd, we got this from HK Tentree's website. It says, "Our company and Square Enix company have reached an agreement to settle the dispute regarding our smart device game app Metal Storm, or again Mecharashi. We will continue to strive to provide better services for our users. We sincerely apologize for any inconvenience caused." And then this last sentence is very interesting. "We hope you will continue to enjoy the game." Okay, I should probably explain why that's interesting, because that probably sounds a little normal. You see, it sounds like Square Enix was trying to cancel the release of this game to the West, to the United States, unless a lot of these assets were removed from the game. Now, it doesn't specifically say if that happened, but this is an indicator that this game, it's not getting canceled or anything like that. And just for confirmation that this whole court case was dismissed and it was terminated, I'll link this also in the description, but this is the official ruling, and it has all the filings listed. You can see right here the very last file, May 20th. This case was officially terminated. But with that termination, with that settlement, like I said, this settlement does not involve Mecharashi getting canceled, and even specifically in the West, because when you look on the Steam page for it, it still says coming soon. I don't know how many assets or what kind of assets specifically had to get taken out of Mecharashi for it to be agreeable to Square Enix's terms, but as you can see from that preview on Steam, I mean, it still is a game that involves these mech suits, or, titans, or whatever you want to call it, and clicking through everything on the Steam page, it looks like it is still going to be like the same turn-based concept, or at least I think it is. Basically, it looks still very similar to the screenshots that I was seeing from various Front Mission games, so we'll see exactly what assets they took out, and maybe we will find out eventually if there was some sort of fine that had to be paid paid by Tentry? I don't know, but the main takeaway here is that the lawsuit is now canceled and Mecharashi is still coming to the West.